Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So exciting news. We may have a release date for Winds of Winter, or at least a really solid idea for the time of year it's going to be dropping next year. So here we go. So the real big news this past week, if you guys didn't see it, is that Winds of Winter received sort of like an international serial number. Books get like a certain serial number as they're registered by publishers. So Martin's publisher registered Winds of Winter, but then a bunch of people pointed out that book publishers do that all the time and sometimes they'll change. It doesn't necessarily indicate that a release is coming up, but it made it seem like the release date was going to be next spring. So everyone was going crazy. Then this shows up on the French Amazon site where like Amazon will sometimes have pre-orders available and it'll tell you the release date that's currently scheduled. So this says 9th of March, 2017. So naturally everyone's freaking out. Oh my God, it's coming. But the thing is when I went to the United States Amazon site, the place where I order books from, I couldn't find this. So a couple things going on. One, they probably have a pretty good idea of when they're going to release Winds of Winter, but the date could change just in the way that video game release dates can get pushed, like in related genre fare. If you're a big Final Fantasy franchise fan, Sony's releasing the new installment of that this year, but it got pushed into November. Originally, it was going to be released a little bit earlier in the year, so naturally, like when they announced the earlier release date, I pre-ordered it, but then Amazon came back to me like a little while later and was like, hey, the release date's been pushed. This is when it's coming out now. So just because a release date is on Amazon doesn't mean that that will absolutely be the release date. It could always get pushed a little bit later in the year, but I still think there's a really solid chance that they will release the book before Season 7 drops because Season 7 isn't coming till the middle of June. So Martin almost has like the whole first part of the year to finish the book. The thing you have to remember though is that it takes time to bind the book. Like once he submits the final version to his publisher, they have to look over it again. Then they actually have to make the physical book and ship it all over the world. That takes a little while. So even if he finishes the book like right before Season 7, it's probably going to take a couple weeks after that before you can buy a physical copy. But I'm still really optimistic that it will drop before Season 7 starts. And for those of you that are wondering, there are a couple big things that have already changed between the book plot and the TV show plot. There are two really big characters that are still alive in the book, so I'll say spoiler warning one more time. Stannis is still alive. He's getting ready for like the big Ramsay battle that you saw in episode 9 during season 6. Theon has already been reunited with his sister. She's a captive of Stannis. They've already had the King's Moot and she's lost. You kind of saw that play out on the TV show. But instead of Sansa, it's actually fake Arya, Jane Poole, Sansa's old friend from King's Landing, that's with Theon. So Sansa at this point is still in the Vale hiding out with Littlefinger. Arya has not come back to Westeros yet, and Jon Snow has just been stabbed. So for a lot of characters in the books, the TV show has already passed their book plot, but some of them are still behind. And another big character that's still alive, kind of a fan favorite, he was one of my favorites, but Barristan Selmy is still alive in the books. He actually has some POV chapters during Winds of Winter. So whereas like the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones, it was kind of fun to pick out like the little changes from the books to the show, now it's going to be fun to pick out the little similarities because they've diverged so much. Every time someone asks Martin at a public appearance, he's like, my book's totally different from the TV show. Enjoy the TV show, enjoy the books, all the same, but they're totally different. And as far as I know, like he probably gives them like a few minor tweaks on the new season, but he's not writing any scripts. So largely, like he isn't doing as much work with the TV show as he has done in past seasons. But a really interesting thing, I know a lot of you are like, hey, I really want like a version of the TV show that's more like the books. So here's something, like if you don't know who Max Brooks is, he's Mel Brooks' son. He wrote World War Z. He writes a lot of really cool post-apocalyptic genre stories. So what he did is because they made that awful Brad Pitt World War Z movie based on his book, like they bought his script, then completely changed his story, turned it into a really terrible movie, and separately what he did is when it came time to do the audiobook for one of his books, is he got all the actors that he really respected and he did like a radio drama the way Neil Gaiman has done for some of his books. So I don't know exactly what Martin sold in terms of the right, like he sold the TV rights of Game of Thrones, the main novels, Song of Ice and Fire, to HBO. I don't know if he could do a radio drama of Game of Thrones, but they could totally do a version of that in the future that is exactly the books, word for word. So if you ever wanted a version of Game of Thrones that was exactly like the books, I feel like radio drama is the way to do that, but I'm not expecting that to happen anytime soon. They're kind of expensive if the actors don't do it for relatively low money and I don't know if they would get the TV actors to do it. They would probably be happy to do it, but I'm sure like once Game of Thrones is over, they're going to want to go and do other things for a little while. So just put like a pin in that. You can ask George R. R. Martin the next time you see him at a convention, will you ever do a radio drama version of A Song of Ice and Fire? And if you are a big fan of audiobooks, they are really good about releasing audiobook versions of all the main novels. I'm not a super huge fan of Roy Dotrice. I mean, he does a pretty good job, but still, right now my all-time favorite just straight-up audiobook narrator is Jim Dale from the Harry Potter series. But let me know in the comments, would you ever want them to do a radio drama of A Song of Ice and Fire? Keep in mind that it would probably be a little bit longer than the current duration of the audiobooks, which, many hours, but I feel like that's what people want. They want more Game of Thrones, they want the books, so radio drama just feels like a no-brainer once they figure out the economics of it. But just to jump back to the TV show, really what's happening right now is that they're gearing up to start filming. The main actors have now slowly started to show up to set, so we'll probably start seeing like a little bit more from what's going on behind the scenes, like them actually filming scenes with Tyrion, Jon Snow, Sansa, all the different characters, Daenerys. So get hype, and congratulations to this week's giveaway winner, Striker163. You win a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. And for those that are wondering, it should go without saying, but once we do get an official release date for Winds of Winter, I will do giveaways for copies of the book. I've done that with previous Game of Thrones book releases. So what's going to happen later tonight is there's some new Ghost Rider footage from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's some new Thor Ragnarok, there'll be like some new Marvel, DC, so that should post a little bit later tonight. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here for my Season 7 cast video, and you can click here to learn all about the Flash movie and how the Justice League is changing a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.